Endless Evolution is a community engaged in the exploration of human experience. We engage with one another to understand our unique paths. We talk, we laugh, we heal, and we invite others to share this journey with us. Won't you join us? Endless Evolution.
So many humans, and where's the humanity?
Hey Aaron,
How you doing, Naomi? How's everything going?
doing okay? Like to welcome everybody here listening with us today to our newest episode of Endless Evolution. We're here today, just you and me. Spence is not doing well. He's a little bit under the weather. You might be able to hear my voice. I am too, still recovering. You're the only healthy one of us, Aaron. I hope it stays that way.
I hope so too. I appreciate it's not lost on me that, people around me have been coming down with things and I continue to try to hold space for people as their bodies are mending, as their minds are mending.
Yeah, it's a really difficult time, and I was like reflecting, right? Because I retired from full-time education, as you know, a couple of years ago, and when I was in an outside of the house environment, I was not nearly as sick as often as I am now. And then I'm
Hmm.
like, oh, right, I'm isolated, and my body's immunity is not as strong because I'm not in the herd, right? Like
Hmm.
I'm kind of in my own bubble, and that's it. And it kind of has thrown me back into these COVID years where I feel very isolated
Hmm.
and the world is kind of tumbling down around me. So it's given me a
Yes.
lot of time to reflect and look, but also, thinking about, wow, how much of this sickness is actually a manifestation of the stress, the
Yes.
worry, the pressure that I'm feeling from everything that's happening every day, right? Because the last time we were together on this podcast, we were talking about, you know, the general theme of our podcast, which is coming together as humanity. And that was what, mid-January, I think.
Yes.
And then a lot of stuff has happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, a lot.
My head is spinning. I know your head is spinning. Can't keep up with the daily executive orders and illegal actions on the part of our current, administration and oligarchy and,
Hmm.
powerful leaders. If I struggle to even use the word leaders, but we have a lot to kind of just unpack today and a little less formal structure, just us talking because, I think we have to give space and time to this need to just verbalize and unpack all that's going on. We were going to record last week, but my son got real sick. We are battling RSV, and his RSV caused a massive seizure and then turned into pneumonia. So we're in the hospital. And collectively, as a team, we decided to create space for Najee to heal, for us to take that time and to really pause and be human, right? Which is what this
Absolutely.
podcast is all about. We can't keep to a schedule. When things are happening around us that impact our real lives every day, we have to be responsive to those events, to those actions, to those, occurrences. And I feel like that's the reminder that I needed to stay grounded in my humanity and encourage others to do the same because all of these executive orders and changes on the daily are impacting the daily lives for so many.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think they're meant to grind you down. As you think about, as you try to center yourself and center your own healing and get rest, um, part of the one of the tools of the enemy, so to speak, is to keep you unsettled, is to
Mhm.
keep you worried about everything else. Because the moment you become grounded, the moment you find rest and peace, you find more of yourself. And when we find more of ourself, when we find more of our humanity, our natural human inclination is to resist, oppression.
Right.
And and so these flurry. I've been thinking about this a little bit, and I know it doesn't impact Najee in this particular regard. It impacts
Right?
him through you, um, but it, I've been thinking about this last month or so. Has it even been a month yet? Yeah, well, no, it's only been about 3 weeks, two, three
January
weeks.
20th, dude. Like it has been a couple weeks of just head spinning, right? Like people were making all those jokes about January was the longest year we've had in a long time, right?
Yes.
And it felt like a damn year.
Yes, yeah, it
Mm.
it it has. This flurry of constantly unsettling us, and it's unsettling. Not to say that we shouldn't be, like the things that we're reading, the illegal actions, the things that are happening across the world, like how the rest of the world views us, um, can have impact on our mental health, our
Mhm.
physical health, and our body holds those things. And it's always good to talk to you on or offline, Naomi, just to, if we need nothing else than to just, commiserate or laugh or tr
Mhm.
trade, recipes. Well, I haven't given you any of mine. Take all yours. Those things that just help to remind us that we're human, and that we're here meant for something else, not to just, you know, exist uh, to serve some sort of fetish around, whether it be capitalism or consumerism, or all of these things that keep us unsettled and unwell in our bodies. And so I don't even know where I'm going with that, but I just wanted to say that
Eh,
um, I've been
Yeah.
feeling it from
I mean,
that energy from you.
I think it's spot on that all of these actions as they were clearly laid out in Project 2025 should not be a surprise to anybody, but still feels like a daily shock to the system, are
Yes,
meant to feel like that, to distract you, to keep you off of your center, to unground you, right? So that you don't connect with people, so that you are living in a reactive, fearful state all the time.
yes,
And I can't say enough to, um, Najee's health crisis and my own sickness made me stop, made
hmm
me say, the only thing that matters right now is grounding myself and getting him stable. And I had to literally in the hospital shut out all of those distractions. I wasn't on my phone. Um, there was a TV in his room once he got settled, but we didn't really turn it on. I was listening to a lot of music. I was reading some, articles and
hmm
news summaries, right? But
hmm
not pouring into the onslaught of the live action play by play
yes,
craziness that is our world right now. And that forced stop that I had to experience because of his health crisis made me sit and think and say, okay, this allows me to breathe deeply. I did a lot of
yes,
meditation in that hospital room.
yes,
I did a lot of reflection, and it allowed me to just focus my energy on myself and on Najee.
yes,
We've both turned a corner. He's back at home. He's really doing well, probably going back to school soon. I think, that pause, and I keep repeating pause because I want to encourage anyone who's listening to us to intentionally take time
yes,
every day to pause. It will allow you to ground yourself and center, right? So I've said it here before, but one of the things I did every morning in the hospital and then every evening was I took off my shoes and socks and I grounded myself on the
hmm
ground as much as I
hmm
could. I couldn't go outside with a lot of fresh air because I couldn't leave Najee, but I did whatever grounding I could and did some, yoga poses and deep
yes,
breaths and stretches to just feel my body and feel my
yes,
connection to something stable and solid. That physical act helped translate to like a mental stability to
yes,
keep me going not only in the hospital, but to really approach this whirlwind that we're living in with a little bit more calm and stability going forward. So I, hope for everybody that in these crazy times, right? Whether it's birthright citizenship being threatened, this proposal to take over Gaza, and I can't even process this idea that we can just turn it into a resort area,
Yeah.
and that the U.S. will take over this land. The fact that Elon Musk, not elected official, now has more power than even Donald Trump does, like
Yes.
all of these things, right? And how they had real impact for us in the hospital.
Yeah.
Right? Najee is a recipient of both Social Security benefits as well as
Hmm.
Medicaid because of his disabilities.
Hmm.
That could be shut off tomorrow. And the
Yeah.
services that he gets shut off tomorrow. That's
Yeah.
real life for us. But I had to shut that out in that moment to just focus on his healing
Yes.
because that's all meant to distract. And had I been consumed by the worries of, will this benefit continue tomorrow? Will we be able to survive here? I'm carrying that anxiety and that stress in my body, and it comes out as dis-ease, right? Because
Yeah.
disease is dis-ease.
Dis-ease. Yes,
It is
absolutely.
intended to, shift your body and take you off kilter. So I don't think it could have come for a better time for me. I often wonder, like, why now? Why is he having another massive seizure? His seizures last over an hour when he has them. His oxygen is almost non-existent. His blood pressure drops. It's scary, right? And I always, in reflection, go, why now?
Yeah.
And at every turn, whenever he's had these on, the journey of his life, they've been at moments where I've needed time to just stop and reflect. And
Yeah.
it reminds me of how much of a gift Najee, in his perfectness, is for me
Yes,
in this
absolutely.
world. He was given to me as a gift to slow me down, to not get distracted, to focus on what matters. Because I have that personality where I'm taking everything in and I want to go fight. I'm fist up in the air. Let's go
Right.
topple the world right now. And he's this constant reminder for me to stay grounded and to slow down. So I share that because I encourage every single one of us to find that grounding, whatever
Yes.
it is. It could be your parent, could be your children, could be your partner, could be a friend, could be a book,
Yeah.
could be a journal, like whatever it
Absolutely.
is. Find that one thing every day that's going to help ground you because if you don't, the whirlwind will, it's like a tornado. It will pick you up and throw you off.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've I have not I empathize with you in that regard. I have not um had to care for another human the way that you have had to care for Najee. And I just admire it so much, the strength and the patience and what it takes for you to be able to give that level of care to him is just I can't even think of a word, but the word that is coming to mind is admirable, but is that's not even the right what I'm trying to convey. But you know, for those of us who have to, because you spoke about a couple things, one of them being like you having you almost being required to pause and to stop to give him the care that he needs. Um, but for those of us who don't have that in our lives, those moments where we're at some point in time, your body's going to
It's going to
say,
give out, right?
sit
Yeah.
down, right? But for you, and you mentioned something that resonates with me, for you to intentionally say, I just need to pause, even if for 15 minutes or 20 minutes a day. One of the things that I struggle with, Naomi, and I think we may have talked about this before, is being that we don't have the hustle and bustle, the everyday hustle and bustle of schools. I struggle with, like, when I wake up in the morning, like, am I contributing?
Mm.
I need to be busy. I feel like I need to be doing something. And one, one of the things that I've been doing some reading about rest and pausing, and one of the things I'm reminded of is that your existence is enough. Like, we weren't made to be on the constant grind and hustle and bustle. We weren't made as human beings to do that. Sometimes I watch out the window and I see the animals. They're not in a rush to get anywhere, just kind of being what they are and just walking around looking for
They're living
food.
their life, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. Um, one of the practices that I picked up during COVID,
Mm,
because I was, we're all, we looked at these screens all the time, and that does something to your brain. You get
right.
addicted to, the constant motion. One of the practices that I picked up was for 15 minutes a day. I just, and I know that seems like that's, not a lot of time, but
It's significant though. Yeah.
for 15 minutes a day, I just shut off all sort of input into my brain, and then
Mhm.
just made the room as quiet as it could be, and then participate in some meditative practices. And I can't even tell you what that did for my nervous
Yeah.
system. Like, to bring it back down, to slow it down, to really start to have a clear thought, is you never think that this society would do that to you and your brain and your body, but yes, it does. And so, um, you know, one of the things, I know we were talking about, like, what should we talk about today? One of the things that just came up for me is just maybe uh, encouraging our readers to, like you just said, take those moments, whether they be on a daily basis or just on a regular basis, to just sit and just be.
Just
And I know
be.
that, and I realize that might come with some level of privilege, but we have to do it regardless of what your economic situation is, your job situation is. People need you and depend on you, and they depend on your wellness, and you need to be well for yourself. But there, you might have
Mhm.
children, you might have significant others or parents that you're caring for, and there might be, people that depend on your wellness and depend on your spirit being grounded and centered. And we just encourage you to continue to do some things for yourself that helps you to be more whole and more healed.
Yeah, what you said about, the nervous system getting regulated really resonates with me because, you know, um, I too was sick when Najee got sick or
Mhm.
when he went into the hospital. We're both battling RSV. And, adrenaline kicks in and I go into like care mode. And I felt like, wow, I was in the hospital. I was feeling a lot better as soon as we got home. Sunday night, we were released from the hospital and we got home. Everything started hurting again. The stuffiness came back. It's because I exhaled and relaxed and released. I was in a
Mhm.
safe environment where I didn't have to be on 24/7.
Mhm.
Um, but what it taught me was like this regulation is so necessary right now in the
Mhm.
world because all of these distractions that we're being bombarded with on the daily,
Yeah.
and not just at the hands of what's going on politically here right now, but the distractions of social media, the
Mhm.
distractions of our jobs, the distractions of capitalism that demand
Mhm.
us to be productive and always getting more and more and more and very self-centered and not communally minded.
Right.
Um, all of those distractions are attacks on your nervous system.
Yes.
So like our nervous system is in constant fight mode, right? And right
Right.
now, because of this onslaught and fear, people are either in fight or flee. They're not in this like, what can I do to breathe and
Right.
rest and resist and understand that rest and grounding and is a huge form of resistance, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because it's calibrating that nervous system, it's slowing everything down, it's resetting it, and it's harder to knock somebody off their base if they're grounded. It is
Yes.
much easier to topple people if they're frazzled and
Yes.
frantic and fearful, right? So
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more that we've got to figure it out. I remember at different points in my life where maybe I was not as financially secure as I am now, and I was working lots of hours and had just a lot that I was carrying on my shoulders. And people would be like, "You just need to relax. You need to do some self-care. You need to just take some time." And I'd look at them and I'm like, "That's nice. I'm glad you get
Hmm.
to say that to me
Uh-huh.
because you have this life where you get
Right.
to check out and go out for drinks or go
Right.
to a yoga class or do some breathing." And I couldn't figure it out. And it wasn't until I started doing the small things, the
Y-
2 minutes a day, the
Yes.
affirmations, the
Right.
gratitude
Right.
reflections, those small things that take 2, 3 minutes a
Yeah.
max, did I start to see that, oh, I can turn the tide. It
Yes.
doesn't have to be an hour of deep tissue massage
Right.
as the only method for me to take care of myself. I mean, those are all great,
Right.
but there are people, a lot of people, hopefully not so many that are listening to us, because I hope that the people listening to us are figuring out how to do self-care, but I see the majority of our society right now in this very frightful place, fearful place,
Yes.
and their nervous systems are like this, and 5 minutes, 5 minutes a day. You said 15. I say start with two, three, four,
Hmm.
build it up, right? Muscle memory builds and muscles get stronger as you build slowly.
Yes.
So I think do whatever you can to build that muscle of relaxation,
Right.
of centering and of groundiness on the daily. And you will then see that that is the self-care and that
Yes.
that is the form of resistance that you can do right now. Resistance is not just boycotting. Resistance
Yes.
is not just protesting. Resistance is
Right.
not just, right? Those are all great forms. But I want people to recognize that every single person has a place in the resistance and in our
Absolutely.
community, right?
Absolutely.
Every
That's
single person.
that's a great point. The point about self-care, because there's this, like you were t just talking about, there's this misnomer that self-care means you go to this weekend retreat, or you get deep tissue massage, or you get facials, or whatever the case may be. And there's this, misconception about that, you know, but there are things that we do on the daily that we just love to do can be a form of self-care. Some people love, we talk about cooking a lot. Some people love to cook. Some people love to read. You might knit or, draw. Art. When I was earlier on in my career, um, I worked with youth who had unfortunately seen a tragedy in their family, and we used art as therapy to help them work through some of those things that they had seen. And so I don't care if you can't draw it, and you have to put it up in the MoMA or anything. You can use it for yourself. Use it as a form of an outlet. All of that self-care. All of it, taking a walk, or or watching your favorite show, or listening to your favorite podcast, can all be forms of self-care.
Yeah, even eating, like what you
Yes,
eat and what you put in your body
absolutely.
is form of self-care. So you don't have to go and invent something or, some of these things seem artificial to people, journaling if they're not used to doing it, gratitude, meditations, it seems very artificial to people. So I always encourage people to start with what you know. Start with
Yes,
what are the actions of your daily life and how can you look at those actions as ways of caring for yourself, right? Um,
absolutely.
your showers, your cleaning routines, your
Yes,
cooking and eating routines, like everything, and be more intentional around those things, right? I love to repeat that word, intentionality. It's a big one for me. So I just, the other thing that about our listeners don't, but is that I lost a cousin this week. Suddenly he had just retired, and about to enjoy the last third of his life. Really great guy, kind of kept himself out of the fringe, like intentionally lived a life where he was not caught up in the drama, not caught up in all of the happenings of everybody. He just kind of lived his life. And in a matter of days, took a turn, some health issues, and now he's no longer here with us. And between that happening and Najee's health crisis and all I can do is look around and look at every single person that I love and that I cherish in this world and say, much like your animal example, my
mhm.
purpose here is to live my life and be in relationship with other living creatures, other
Yes,
living humans, other
yes,
living animals, and let my life cycle and provide for myself as animals do, right? Animals
yes,
hunt, they find their food, they create a shelter.
yes,
And how can we get back to the basics of that?
yes,
And that's a form of resistance, particularly to our society, which is very, again, capitalistic and driven uh,
Yes.
um, around money and self, um, achievement above
Yes.
all else, and not communal living. And so people are so focused on their personal achievements and their self-worth and their self-glorification that they forget that their whole purpose here is to just look around and take a deep breath and smell the flowers and
Yes, absolutely.
go for a walk and move
Yes.
your body and get some nourishment and have a shelter. And if you've
Yes.
got those things, and then you fill your life with other human creatures that you love and that you can relate to, you've lived a really full life. And so, while it's deeply sad for us to think about my cousin having passed at a relatively young age, early 60s, on the brink of just enjoying the rest of his life. He definitely lived his life like that, daily, just enjoying life. He wasn't driven by money. He was driven by, I want to love my family. I'm going to create a shelter for them. I'm going to provide for them. And I'm just going to live life on there every day. And I think of like what a beautiful example for us to think about.
Yes.
And then if every single one of us can get to the end of our life with having accomplished that, we will have lived a full, meaningful life.
Yes.
Titles, accolades, none of that matters, right? How
No.
we contribute to the world around us, how we connect to other people, and how we stay grounded for our own growth and for our communal growth. That's what will matter, right? That's what's going to nourish future generations and our current generation. And my hope for everybody is that we can take a moment to just reflect on that every single day,
Absolutely.
particularly in this moment of crazy.
Yes. Yeah. And it's funny, I was looking at a pile of mail that I had. And one of the things that I do is I don't know why I do this. I let the mail pile up and then I do it all at the same time and open everything up and then sort it out instead of doing it like on a daily basis. And I was looking at my mail pile and I asked myself, how did I get here? How did I get here? And I have this big old stack of mail.
Yeah,
And I know it seems like a silly question, but I was thinking like, how did I make my life so complex that is a worry to me about it was an anxiety producer about making sure I get through all of this mail. I don't know. I know it might seem like an inane sort of observation, but it 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 helped me to, start thinking about like what our purpose is here on this planet. And it's again, it might sound like we're repeating this, but it is not to prove our worth through work ethic. And it's a thing that I was taught my whole life that you work hard and you get up and you nothing wrong with that, going to work and, making a living for yourself. But like that's how I showed that I was worthy, because I added some value, so to speak. And as I'm thinking about this after realizing this, looking at this big pile of mail, is that n nobody's gonna remember if my goal is to be remembered, and I'm not even saying that's my goal, but nobody's gonna remember, um, you know, that I worked 60-hour weeks or that nobody's going to remember. You don't get the praise for it when you're doing it, let alone after,
right,
10 or
right.
15 years after. But I remember the relationships that I had with people. I remember the wisdom that I was able to glean from people. I remember the great connections that I made with people. I even remember some of the bad ones because they taught me a lesson. And so that the human connection to each other is so important. And when we can start to empathize with each other and prioritize others' feelings, we won't get what we have right now in the White House, where we're talking about like just send them somewhere else, send them to Jordan or send them to Egypt or send them
Right.
somewhere else. We won't have people that grow up and think like that. We won't have people that grow up and think that this world is meant for them to just take everything.
Mm.
Um, thinking about you talking about Elon Musk earlier, like thinking about the man is the richest man in the world. How much more money do you need?
Right,
Like,
right.
so there's something wrong with his brain to make him believe. I'm sorry, I'm getting political here, but make him
Go
believe
for
that
it.
you need more than what you need more.
Right.
We are enough.
Well, he's obviously not a grounded human being, right? Like
No.
he is very off kilter, and most people who are driven by money, success, and material possession and good or accolades and achievement are definitely not centered and grounded with themselves, nor are they often centered and grounded with community. And the ones that I have seen, they become very wealthy and spend a lot of their time then giving back. They create
Mhm,
a lot of movements,
mhm,
donations,
mhm.
philanthropic, actions to really help lift others. And they do it very quietly and in the shadows. They're not boasting
Yes.
about it. And so again, having work ethic and working hard, none of that's bad. But if you're doing it just for the accolades and just for that material wealth, you're missing the boat and you're off
Yeah.
center. I think, Aaron, both of us educators, Spence too, and he would definitely commiserate here because he and I, having taught together, share a lot of the same former students and things like
Hmm.
that. I think as educators, we are blessed and privileged to experience the appreciation that others have for the impact on their lives. You
Hmm.
know, um, Julie, my wife, is an engineer.
Hmm.
No one's coming back to her and saying, man, the way you designed, the IT connectivity in the cars made the difference. No one's getting to her. Like she'll
Right.
never get that direct feedback, right? But as educators, we get it.
Yeah.
And one of the most fulfilling things is when a former student reaches out, and so many do. Um, and people that I didn't know if I had had an impact on because we weren't particularly close, right?
Right.
And when they reach out, they're not saying, I remember the lesson you taught or how you taught me how to, um,
Right.
you know, outline a chapter. They're talking about maybe a conversation or a dialogue we had in
Hmm.
class. They're
Yes.
talking about a moment where they saw me do X, Y, and Z and it inspired them. They're talking about how I was there for them in hard times, and they're all relational pieces.
Yes.
None of them are content pieces.
Yes.
And when I think about the healthcare workers that have helped me and my son over the years, I'm not thinking about, oh, they did this. It was how they related to me and saw the humanity in me and
Hmm.
my son. So even just this last time, we're in the emergency room, he's having this massive seizures and no shade, but a lot of the medical people just go by the book, go by the
Hmm.
screen, go by what the insurance companies tell them. And that's how they've been educated, and that's how they're told they have to work, even if they don't like it, right?
Hmm.
And there was one, she was a respiratory therapist. All these, we're going to have to intubate him. We're going to have to put these tubes in. I'm like, whoa, how about we look at him and understand he's suffering from a respiratory illness. He's a child with, or a human with a lot of history of seizures that happen when his airways are blocked. Can we do anything to unblock his airways? The
Hmm.
respiratory therapist came in and looked at him and looked at me, and all she did was look in my eyes. And she kind of like parted the seas. I was like, oh,
Hmm.
this one's right
Hmm.
out of the Bible, right? And she's like, let me try some things. And she went and she suctioned out through his nose two massive clots from his lungs. And instantly his oxygen came up. He started breathing on his own. And all she had to do was listen to me as a human
Yes.
and look at him as a human and not as, oh, the check marks say this. Oh, the screen says his oxygen's at this number. We have to intubate. But like, let's really look at him as a
Yes.
human. And I value healthcare workers. I
Yes.
value educators. I value anyone who touches these lives of people and focus on the people, the
Yes.
humanity of the people and what they need in that moment. I remember countless times in the classroom where I threw the lesson to the side because my
Mm.
students needed humanity,
Mm.
needed to talk about the tragedy that just happened in their neighborhood or in their
Hmm.
home or some injustice they felt in the school. And they got more out of those moments. And it
Yes.
propelled them, right? I've got kids who have beat the odds, right? Gone on and had incredible careers and incredible, impactful lives because of those moments. They come
Yes.
and tell me about that. They don't
Right.
tell me about the content lesson that
Right.
I think
Right.
about. Right?
Right.
So I think I'm very grateful to be able to experience that. It might be why the three of us are so focused on humanity because we've been privileged enough
Yes.
to experience how pouring into humans
Yes.
makes a massive difference,
Yes.
and can turn the corner for a lot of people, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, we don't often realize that a word or a simple gesture can make that impact in someone else's life.
Yeah.
We don't ever know what it is. I was this is before this was pre-Target rolling back their DEI
Mm,
initiative. So I was in Target and I saw a young lady crying and she was just I mean she was visibly I didn't know her.
all right.
I just went up to her and I said, "Hey, is everything okay? Do you need anything? Is there any way I can help?" And she said no. And a little bit later on, she came back and said, thank you for caring, thank you for asking." Um, a simple gesture, a simple act of care, a simple act of acknowledgement, and like, I see you, and recognizing that someone is maybe having a tough time, or like you said, listen to another human being and suspend your own. You know,
Right.
we it's funny we think, and I suffer for this too. I'm not blaming everybody
Yeah,
else. I suffer
no,
from
of
this too.
course.
We think we know everything,
Right.
and we don't know jack about someone else. I wanted to say something else, but we don't know jack about someone else and what they may be going through until we listen to them, until
Yeah.
we empathize, until we make a connection, an emotional connection with another human being.
Yeah, the greatest tool of building humanity is listening, right? Is listening to
Absolutely.
one another. And I think that helps build then those communities of resistance because
Absolutely.
when people feel connected, that you matter to them, that you see them, they're going to show up for you and
Yes,
help
they are.
resist
Yes,
alongside of
they
you,
are.
right? So my
Yes, they are.
challenge to our listeners and our ask of you, because we always like to sprinkle these podcasts with like some things you can reflect on and also an ask of you, right? Like, what are you doing? What are those small acts of kindness, those small words, those small gestures that you can engage in on a daily basis, on a weekly basis with others to show up for that person's humanity and in turn nourish your own humanity, right? Like by giving out and pouring into other people through these small acts of kindness, through paying it forward, like that great movie,
Hmm. Hmm.
you are filling up yourself and you're building that community and you're building that resistance, right? Because we need a community that's strong and
Yes.
united right now to resist the onslaught of crazy that we're living through and that we will continue to live through. And the best way to build that community of resistance is through acts of love and acts
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
kindness and gestures that matter. So I'm asking all our listeners, what are you doing on the daily? Think about it. Drop a
Yes.
comment for us on our, YouTube page or on our Spotify. Let us know, what are you doing? What are those small things? And maybe you sharing what you do will inspire other people to do the same or inspire other people to look in their own kind of chest of tools of what can they do on the daily, to build other people up and then build themselves up in the process.
Yes. Wow. Amazing. Naomi is we can talk all day
All
long,
day.
whether we're recording for this or just um, being in community with one another, and I so appreciate not just your friendship, but your um, I'm gonna say kinship, like
Mm,
the 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 closeness that we have developed over the years of just seeing one another. And it,
mm,
and if I'm going to just be transparent, it hasn't always been, two
no.
different human beings are not going to always see the same, see the be on the same see things the same way. But I appreciate just being able to continue to do this with you and continue to. I feel like when I'm over there, I feel like a part of the family. Amari, has gotten used to me now.
Yeah,
So
my dog Amari
yes.
loves Aaron. If
Oh,
I were to let her in right now, she'd be on the screen to say hi. Yeah, for sure. So we are grateful to have you all in our community. We hope that the love and humanity that we show to each other is something that you can feel through the screen, you can
definitely.
hear through the sound waves, and that you can replicate in your own lives. We're going to end with a quote from Bell Hooks, something to really think about and reflect on, and that is one of the most vital ways we sustain ourselves is by building communities of resistance, places we know we are not alone. So we leave you with that quote to think about: how do you build your community of resistance on the daily? How can you love each other? Um, and, just hope that you can find ways to sustain yourself as we navigate our way through what seems like uncharted waters for many of us, and realities we've never seen or lived in the flesh. So we just want to wish you the best. And until next time, we ask that you stay balanced, keep healing, and keep evolving.
Thank you, everyone.
This episode of Endless Evolution is brought to you by the No Harm Organization, uplifting wholeness and humanity. Our featured music is Humanity by Lava Laru.